I try to go out of my way to stay in shape. Lately, however, I've been trying to work a little harder than usual, and that's because, as the resident freshman on the speech and debate team, last year I was assigned the menial task of lugging around the extemporaneous speaking file box. This year, however, our team decided to start filing electronically. Now, while this might mean a slight kink in my workout routine, the amount of paper that our team has saved by switching to electronic filing is simply astounding. By the rough calculations of myself and my coach, our team alone has saved over 10,000 sheets of paper this year by switching to electronic filing instead of printing off our news items for extemporaneous speaking. And if we pair that item with the according data from the ChinaDaily.com news site from March 2009 that says for every ton of paper printed that 24 trees are felled and 7,000 gallons of water are wasted, we can see how even a single step like this on a debate team such as ours can have a meaningful impact on the environment and saving materials. And furthermore, we can also see how if the forensics community as a whole were to take this lesson to heart, even more could be saved. So today, we'll address the problem of how paper waste is something that is preventing us from honoring our planet and saving materials, and then we'll examine the causes that cause these problems to persist. Finally, we'll examine some possible solutions that will allow us to honor our planet by guarding these materials and being a more responsible forensics community. The first of these is that we are simply wasting more paper than ever before, and the second is that we're doing nothing to change this fact. Now, in this day of iPhones and digital displays of all kinds, it may seem a little strange that we are using more paper than ever before. However, this is the case. We learned this from the Business Day of South Africa of April 9, 2009, which points out that up from 2006, which saw use of 49 billion pages of printed information, 2009 and 2008 saw somewhere close to 53 or 54 billion, showing a drastic increase in the use of printed media. Furthermore, we can see that most of this comes from the use of paper in things such as small offices or businesses, the most notorious users of printers for everyday running back and forth between offices and meeting halls. When we examine the forensics community, we can see that the forensic community use of paper very much resembles an office, albeit perhaps an office in fast forward. We learned from the same Business Day article that in a survey of respondents, 49% of office workers said they had no real idea how many pieces of paper per day they printed, or any idea how they managed the number of pieces of paper compared to if they had been more conscious about what in fact they printed. The amount of paper being used is already enough to boggle the mind. Perhaps even the more disconcerting fact is the fact that nothing is being done to change it. While it may seem inconcernable to us that these people, in today's age of being able to use email and document management electronically more than ever before, are not saving paper, perhaps we should examine what we see in the Lawyers Weekly from July 18th of 2008, which points out that 59% of office survey respondents had no idea how comprehensive document management was, or what it meant to the way they printed and used paper and documents in the office every day. How then are we to interpret these problems? Why does the average office worker, or perhaps worse, the average member of the forensics community, allow this waste to persist? Well, the causes are twofold. First, we're simply accustomed to paper. We're used to the way it feels, the way we can stack it, and how it feels when we print it. And second, well, we're simply wasteful by nature. We learned from the Canada Globe and Mail of July 2009 that we're simply accustomed to the way that paper feels. We like the way that it stacks, we like the way that it feels when we print it out and staple it together, and the forensics community of all people should know that this is the case. Ask yourself, as a member of the speech and debate team, how many times you've reprinted a speech simply because one thing was rearranged in a way you didn't so much like it, or how many pages upon pages upon pages of sources you printed for an extemporaneous speaking file that perhaps you've never used. The fact is that we like the satisfaction of printing something, the physical gratification, and it simply results in a waste of paper. Now obviously this can equate to a simple, careless waste of paper. We can confirm this by looking to the Birmingham Evening Mail of August 2008, which shows us that a typical office worker printed 22 pages of information over what would be the average each day. This waste of paper can be equated to such habits as printing emails, printing multiple copies of the same document, single-sided printing, and printing of massive documents that are never likely to be read. That sounds just a little bit like extemporaneous speaking to me, especially the part about printing massive documents that are never likely to be read. If you'll remember my introduction, the lifting of the heavy box filled with extemporaneous papers pretty much is the textbook definition of massive printing of paper that's never likely to be used or examined even once past the date when it's printed. Fortunately, there are some solutions to these problems. These solutions can be summarized as first, using electronic filing and specifically the area of extemporaneous speaking on the forensic circuit to ensure that paper is not wasted, and second, applying the same idea of conservation and the use of electronic resources to the larger picture of the forensics community, the administrative side of running tournaments, as well as perhaps other events. However, the foremost and largest culprit in paper waste on the forensics community is likely the extemporaneous speaking event. This event, which historically causes teams to print out massive amounts of information and bring along countless other newspapers and magazines, is certainly the biggest target to utilizing the technology and the ease of use in the form of computers and electronic filing today to cut back on this paper waste. A specific example of how my speech and debate team decided to switch to electronic filing and henceforth has saved 10,000 pages of paper per year, discounting any magazines or newspapers, should serve as an example of how any team that chooses to do this, perhaps even in part, could save massive amounts of paper and provide a boon to honoring our planet through how we deal with the forensics community and the activities on the forensic circuit. The same idea that we would apply to extemporaneous speaking, of using electronic resources to prevent the printing of paper unnecessarily, and applying it to the forensics community as a whole. The use of online tools such as Google Wave, Google Documents, and various other private websites or even simply email to share information could facilitate this. Furthermore, we can look to what The Economist of October 2009 says, where it points out that online media can be stored, tagged, filed, searched, and archived, as well as being put into what is known as the computing cloud, where any computer connected to the internet can access that cloud, download the information, and use it by searching and tagging it. However, in contrast, paper tends to get burnt, soaked, stained, or otherwise lost. About implementing these changes to revolutionize the way we do not only extemporaneous speaking, but also view paper usage in the forensics community as a whole? Well, it might be perhaps the fact that I no longer have a heavy extemporaneous file box to carry around. But actually, when we examine the fact that we have more electronic resources and means than ever before to change the way that we use and waste paper today, we can see that there is simply no excuse to not, first, recognize the problems that I've illustrated today, second, examine the causes that allow those problems to persist, before finally implementing the solutions in the forensics community to allow for us to cease wasting paper and impact this problem beyond the forensics community. So, while there may never be another extemporaneous box for me to carry around to stay in shape, hey, there's always the visual aids.